The latest research from the U.S. labor data statistics shows that in June of 2021, we had 3.9 million people who voluntarily resigned from their jobs. In August, that number shows that 4.3 million people actually voluntarily resigned from jobs. So we're at an economy at this stage where it's really hard for employers keeping their talented employees not only engaged but actually retaining them. And this is something that can be quite detrimental to an organization, and perhaps you're feeling it yourself. You're trying to attract talent. In the meantime, you're having a hard time retaining the existing talent that you have. If we haven't met before, my name is Fahim Karim, and I'm an employee engagement expert, and I work with companies that are purpose-driven, and I help them in creating a safe environment where everyone gets to vocalize their ideas and their opinions and their dissents without being put down. Your managers get to listen and lead, and your employees feel empowered and part of the team, and your company continues to grow as employees are innovating. So I'd love to learn, where are you listening in from? Where are you joining us from? Please put in the comments so I can get to learn from you where you are, and what are some of the challenges that you're facing, or the things that you're seeing that's being done really well in your organization when it comes to increasing the confidence level of your teams. And that's the topic I plan to talk about today, because this is something that I discussed earlier this week in my video, that it is a very underutilized tool. And once this tool is utilized properly, research shows that the performance, the productivity, as well as revenues can be easily increased by 10 to 20%. And as someone who's worked in the corporate space for a very large organization that has offices across the globe, and someone who's lived in 4 different continents and understands the nuances of the cultures and how cross-functional teams are, best, how do I say it, operational, like how to motivate teams. As I've worked in that space and saw the results it has had, I love to share some of the things, as well as the recent research that are showing up, that is going to help you in creating more confidence in your teams. So go ahead and put in the comments, where are you signing in from, and what are some of the challenges you're seeing currently in your team when it comes to productivity, when it comes to generating more revenues, or when it comes to increasing the level of your confidence. So what I wanted to share with you is the data that I spoke about is from Gallup. The Gallup research shows that by simply showing appreciation to our teams, our individual members, by praising them, and not just praising them once in a while. Because, the perception sometimes we have as leaders, look, if I praise this person too much, it's going to get to their head, and they're not going to be realizing that they have areas of improvement. However, the data shows that's not true. It shows that if an employee was not praised in the last 7 days, they're more likely to respond to a survey saying that they might be looking to leave the company. So just imagine, in the last 7 days, if they did not receive any praise, that is something that is going to affect their decision on whether to stay with the organization in the next 1 year or not. But what the challenge is, forget about next 1 year, the challenge is even retaining today, right? And so this is a simple thing that we can do as leaders, as you can do right away with your team, is to show appreciations, to recognize them. And so how can we do that? Here are a few things I want to share. Number one is, and they're not in any particular order, you can choose them any way you like, and that works best for you. One of them is to recognize or reward them publicly, in front of their peers, in front of other colleagues, in front of the company, maybe an email that goes out to everyone, letting other team members know or other departments know something specific about this employee that you're appreciating. One of the things I really admire those companies that actually have the courage to recognize the employee's contribution publicly in social media. And that really makes the employee feel appreciated. It doesn't matter how small the contribution is, but recognizing that it's something really big. So maybe it's not possible for you to do that publicly, but at least within the organization, within the company, or within the team, or within the team meetings, recognize them. Whether it's in a virtual setting, in Zoom, or wherever, please take the time to recognize each person's contribution. It doesn't sometimes have to be in a group setting. Sometimes it could be that when you're having your one-to-one, your weekly one-to-one, let's say, with your subordinate who's reporting to you, take the time to recognize some of the amazing things that they're doing and do it regularly. It's just a habit. Make it a habit. Number two, make it easy for others to recognize each other. And this needs to be done strategically. If you have the budget or the technology to do it, or you can find creative ways of doing this. Why is this important? When we make it easy for other team members to recognize each other, and at the same time we recognize those team members that take the time to recognize others, you're going to create a culture of recognizing and appreciating, and that will help increase the confidence level that our minds, there's probably like 50 or 60,000 thoughts we have in our minds each day, and more than 80% of those thoughts are negative. So we ourselves are already saying negative things to us, and imagine on top of that, if our boss, as our leaders, don't tell anything good to us, right? Don't remind us of what the good things we're doing. It just keeps piling on, and some days we need to hear it more than others. Right? So just imagine yourself in their shoes, how much better you would feel if your boss told you, hey, I really want to take some time to say, I appreciate this one quality of yours. I don't know if you really recognize this or not, but this is a talent that you have. And I've noticed it again and again, and I want to not take it for granted. I want to appreciate that. So I really appreciate this part of you that really, you bring to in our team. I appreciate that greatly. So what happens is, when you think strategically, making it easy for teams to recognize each other often and have a systematic tool of identifying. So for example, when you're recognizing someone's talent, somebody in your team, what are you recognizing them for? Maybe for communications, maybe for sales, maybe for creativity, right? So let's just take one of those. Let's say you're recognizing an employee or a colleague or a team member for creativity. Now, organization or your company is not being very creative, you don't even have to go externally. When you have the systematic control in place where you can see which team members in my company are getting recognized for creativity, you can then reach out to them and say, I noticed that you've been recognized numerous times for your creativity, and we would love you to please share some of your best practices to this team. And they could use and benefit from your talent. You apparently have that. Imagine the confidence level of that employee and the loyalty of that employee is going to be with you, with your organization, and in you as a leader for giving them that recognition, right? Just as a side note, I love this one quote about happiness. Happiness is one of those rare things that only multiplies when it is shared, right? So when you take the time to make your employee feel happy, you yourself are going to be a beneficiary of that as well. The next thing I want to say is look out for things to appreciate. Because believe it or not, a lot of times our team members may not even realize sometimes what their talent is. And sometimes what we think are our worst characteristics are actually our biggest strength. I'll give an example. sometimes you may have someone who may think that, oh, you know what, I am not good at thinking fast, and I'm challenged with that. I can't come up with an answer right away when my boss asks me about that. And I'm going to go more deeper into that. But in the meantime, share with me in the comments what are some of the challenges you're facing when it comes to team building your team confidence, and what are some of the things that you're seeing are done positively. So looking into that, where you can actually help that person identify that particular quality that they thought was their worst quality is actually their strength. How is that? You see, when a person takes more time to think, it doesn't mean that they're slow in their thinking process. They're just more thorough, right? So the example of that is, let's say somebody is going from point A to point B at a very fast speed, where somebody else is going at a much slower speed. The person who's reaching the point B at the fastest speed, granted their ability to make decisions pretty fast, but they're also missing out something that the other person is catching, which is the person who's going slower is covering a lot of details on each of that or throughout that whole route that the other person might have overlooked, right? So actually that becomes a strength. And having these both type of talent in your team and recognizing them, because the other person might be thinking, you know what, sometimes I make decisions too fast, or sometimes I speak out too loud, and that may be a challenge. Well, it may be, but also that challenge, that is also a talent that is needed, right? So by looking out for things to appreciate, by training our minds as a leader, you are going to be that person that's going to help build the confidence of your team, because your team members are going to love to work with you because you help them identify things in them. By you looking out for those talents in them, they would love to be a part of your team. Next, sometimes I don't want to, how do I say it? I don't want to underestimate the value of giving feedback and negative feedback. Negative feedback in general are best when somebody's about to make a huge mistake, right? They're about to make a huge mistake. Because what happens is when the negative feedback is given, it really ruptures the relationship and it undermines the confidence level of the team member. However, it's needed sometimes, especially when you see a team member is about to make a huge mistake, right? Or just made a huge mistake. But do that privately, right? It's important to do that privately and not publicly, right? To continue to maintain that relationship and continue to not let that confidence level be undermined, right? And so, granted, sometimes we do need to give negative feedback, and leaders have to, and we ourselves as leaders need it. However, not publicly, especially like in a team setting. Like, imagine in a team setting where everyone is coming in to get some, positive input and some things to look forward to. But maybe because one person did something wrong or two person did something wrong, and just, yelling at the whole team as if everybody's doing the same thing, sometimes it just is very detrimental to the confidence level of the team. Granted, if it is something major, it's a principle that we all need to be reminded of, then it's okay, but not making it too negative, but to just as a gentle reminder. Hey, I'd like to remind all of you, all of us, including myself, this is something we should be mindful of, as we're seeing some people are doing this, and we should be mindful of that, but not belaboring it throughout the whole meeting. It's like a tire that's leaking. The confidence level of the team just goes off. So if you loved what you heard today, and if you think somebody can benefit from that, please share it with them so that they can continue to be the leader that their teams are going to love to work with. And follow us right here on Facebook, on our business page, so that you don't miss out on any of the latest strategies and tips that I have to share with you, so that you continue to be that leader that people are going to love to work with. So until we meet next time, my friend, tread softly, speak kindly, and love unconditionally.